They told me to destroy him, find the dirt, expose the lies, ruin the billionaire who thought he was untouchable. But somewhere between the leaked emails and late-night stakeouts, something happened I never saw coming. He looked me in the eyes, and I saw the man behind the money. If you've ever had to choose between your career and your heart, between the truth and something that felt even more real, stay with me. This is my story, and I promise you, it's not what you think. Hit that like button if you're ready for something real, and let's dive in. My name is Kennedy Ross, and I'm an investigative journalist. At least, I was. 32 years old, living in a studio apartment in the city, surviving on coffee and the high of chasing the truth. I'd built my career on one simple principle: powerful people lie, and it's my job to catch them. I'd exposed corrupt politicians, shady CEOs, people who thought their money made them invisible. And I was good at it. Really good. My mama used to clean houses for rich folks when I was growing up. I'd sit in their kitchens doing homework while she scrubbed their floors, and I'd watch these people walk past her like she was furniture, like she didn't matter. I promised myself back then that I'd make them see us, that I'd have a voice they couldn't ignore. Every article I wrote was for that little girl sitting in those kitchens, and for my mama who sacrificed everything so I could be more than the help. So when my editor, Mr. Thompson, called me into his office on a rainy Tuesday morning, I thought it was just another assignment, another bad guy to take down. He slid a folder across his desk, and when I opened it, I saw the face of William Grant, billionaire real estate developer, 40 years old, Harvard-educated, inherited his father's empire, and doubled it. On paper, he was a philanthropist. In reality, according to our sources, he was displacing poor families to build luxury condos nobody could afford. "This could be your Pulitzer, Kennedy," Thompson said, leaning back in his chair with that hungry look editors get when they smell blood in the water. "We've got tips about illegal evictions, bribed inspectors, families thrown out on the street while he makes millions. I want you to get close. Get the story. Burn him down." I took the folder home that night and covered my apartment wall with everything I could find about William Grant. Photos from galas, business records, property deals, court filings. I studied him like an exam I couldn't fail. And the more I looked, the more I saw what I expected to see. Another rich white man who thought the rules didn't apply to him. This was going to be easy. My plan was simple. He was hosting a charity gala the following week, one of those fancy events where rich people pay $1,000 a plate to feel good about themselves. I borrowed a dress from my friend Nicole, something black and elegant that I could never afford on my salary, did my makeup, and walked into that ballroom like I belonged there. I was going in as a freelance writer working on a piece about modern philanthropy. Not exactly a lie, just not the whole truth. I didn't expect him to notice me. Men like that don't usually see women who look like me unless we're serving them drinks. But I was standing by the bar, nursing a glass of champagne I couldn't afford to pay for, when I felt someone next to me. I turned, and there he was. William Grant, tall, dark-haired, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than my car. But it wasn't his looks that caught me off guard. It was his eyes. They looked tired, sad even. "These things are exhausting, aren't they?" he said, and his voice was softer than I expected. Not the booming confidence of a man used to owning every room he entered. Just tired. I could have walked away. Should have, probably. But journalists don't walk away from opportunities, so I smiled and said, "I'm just here for the free champagne." He laughed, a real laugh, and we started talking. He asked what I did, and I gave him my cover story. He told me about the foundation his mother started before she died, how he was trying to keep her legacy alive. 20 minutes passed like 20 seconds, and when he asked if I'd like to grab coffee sometime, I said yes. For the story, I told myself. This is all for the story. That coffee date turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long conversations that stretched past midnight. He was nothing like I expected. He talked about growing up with a father who measured love in dollar signs, about the pressure of running an empire he never asked for, about feeling lonely in rooms full of people. And I listened, taking mental notes, gathering material, building my case. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. I started forgetting I was supposed to be working. I started just enjoying his company. My best friend, Nicole, the one who loaned me that dress, warned me over brunch one Sunday. "Kenny, you're getting in too deep. I see how you look when his name comes up on your phone. This is supposed to be a job." "I'm not getting attached," I lied, pushing eggs around my plate. "I know what I'm doing. This is all part of the investigation." But late that night, alone in my apartment, I'd stare at my phone and wonder if I was lying to him or to myself. The breakthrough came 3 weeks into our whatever this was. He'd invited me to his office, said he wanted to show me the community centre his foundation was building. While he took a phone call, I excused myself to the restroom and took a detour past his assistant's desk. There it was, just sitting in an open file, an email chain between William and his business partner, a man named Robert Fletcher. And it was all there, every ugly detail. Families evicted with 24 hours' notice, inspectors paid off, building codes ignored, people's lives destroyed so they could maximize profit. I took photos with shaking hands, my heart pounding so loud I was sure someone would hear it. This was it. This was the story that would make my career. I had him. But then I kept reading, kept scrolling through those emails, and I found something else. Messages from William to Robert marked urgent. "We can't do this. These people have nowhere to go." "I don't care about the profit margin. We're not moving forward until we have relocation plans. If you proceed with these evictions, I'm out. I'll blow the whistle myself." I stood there in that hallway, phone in my hand, staring at words that didn't fit the narrative I'd built in my head. This wasn't a villain twirling his mustache. This was a man fighting a losing battle against his own business partner. And losing. That night, he invited me to his house for the first time. Not the penthouse in the city, but his actual home. A quiet place outside of town overlooking the water. We sat on his back porch with wine and stars, and he opened up in a way he never had before. He told me about Robert, his father's oldest friend, who'd been like an uncle to him growing up. How Robert had changed after his father died, became ruthless, profit-driven. How William had been trying for 2 years to buy him out, to take full control so he could make things right. But Robert owned 40% of the company and wouldn't budge. "I know what people think of me," he said, staring out at the water. "I know what the headlines say. Rich guy destroys neighborhoods. And they're not completely wrong. My name is on those buildings. My company did those evictions. But I'm trying to fix it, trying to make it right. And it feels like I'm fighting a war I can't win." He turned to look at me then. And those sad eyes I'd noticed that first night were even sadder now. "You're the first person in years who's looked at me and seen me. Not my money. Not my last name. Just me." I felt something crack inside my chest. This man, this supposedly heartless billionaire, was just lonely, just human, just trying. And I was about to destroy him. My phone buzzed in my purse, a text from Thompson. "Need the story by Friday. Don't go soft on me, Ross." I excused myself, said I wasn't feeling well, and drove home with tears blurring the road in front of me. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't keep lying to him. But if I told him the truth, I'd lose him. And if I didn't write the story, I'd lose my career. Either way, I was about to lose something that mattered. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I'd made my decision. I called him and asked to meet at the coffee shop where we'd had our first date. He showed up smiling, happy to see me, and I wanted to die. We sat down, and I didn't even order anything. I just looked at him and said, "I need to tell you something, and you're going to hate me for it." I told him everything, that I was an investigative journalist, that I'd been assigned to expose him, that our first meeting wasn't an accident, that I'd lied about who I was and why I was there, that I'd taken photos of his private emails and documents. I watched his face change as I talked, watched the warmth drain out of those eyes and turn to ice. When I finished, I pulled out my phone and showed him the evidence I'd found, both the bad and the good, the evictions and his attempts to stop them. I found the truth, I said, my voice shaking. The whole truth. Not just the parts that make good headlines. And I wanted you to know that before I write anything. He stared at me for a long moment and I couldn't read his expression. Then he stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. You were just like everyone else, he said quietly. I thought you were different. I thought you saw me, but you were just using me, getting your story. Thanks for the confession, Kennedy. Really appreciate the honesty. The way he said my name, like it tasted bitter in his mouth, broke something in me. He walked out, and I sat there alone at that table and cried in public for the first time since my mama's funeral. I went home and wrote the article. Not the hit piece Thompson wanted. Not a puff piece either. I wrote the truth. I wrote about a broken system where even people trying to do right get crushed by the machine. About a man who inherited an empire built on questionable ethics and was trying, imperfectly, to change course. About the families who suffered and deserved better. About complexity, about nuance, about the fact that real life doesn't fit neatly into hero and villain boxes. I wrote for 3 days straight, barely eating, barely sleeping, pouring everything into those words. When I submitted it, Thompson called me into his office. His face was red. This isn't what we discussed, Ross. Where's the takedown? Where's the scandal? This reads like you're defending him. I'm not defending anyone, I said, standing my ground. I'm telling the truth, the whole truth. Isn't that what journalism is supposed to be? Journalism is about selling papers, he shot back. About giving readers what they want. They want blood. They want... I quit, I said. Just like that. The words came out before I'd fully thought them through, but once they were out, I knew they were right. I'm done destroying people for clicks. I'm done reducing human beings to headlines. Find someone else. I cleaned out my desk that afternoon. 15 years of my career packed into a cardboard box. I felt terrified and free at the same time. 2 weeks passed. I picked up some freelance work, barely making rent, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. I published the article independently on a journalism platform, and it went viral in a way I never expected. People weren't just sharing it. They were talking about it, debating it, thinking about it. That's when I realized maybe the truth is more powerful than scandal. Maybe people are hungry for something real. Then one evening, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it and there he was. William Grant standing in my hallway, hands in his pockets, looking nervous. I read your article, he said. My heart stopped. And you told the truth. The whole truth. Even the parts that made you look bad. Even the parts that made me look complicated instead of just evil or just good. You risked your career to be honest. He stepped closer. I was angry. I had every right to be. You lied to me, and that hurt. But I've been thinking about what you said that day in the coffee shop. About finding the truth. And the truth is, you could have written a story that destroyed me. You had the evidence. You had the motive, but you didn't. You chose integrity over easy success. I exposed all your secrets, I whispered. And you exposed my heart, he said. You saw me, the real me, not the one I show at galas or in boardrooms, the messy, struggling, trying my best me. And you didn't weaponize it. You humanized it. We stood there in my doorway, and I realized something. Love isn't about perfection. It's about seeing someone fully, flaws and all, and choosing them anyway. It's about truth, even when truth is hard, especially when truth is hard. I don't know what happens next, I said. Neither do I, he admitted, but I'd like to find out, if you're willing. I was willing, so that's my story. the one where I went looking for a villain and found a human being, where I had to choose between my career and my integrity, and I chose me. Look, life isn't clean. People aren't simple. And sometimes the truth is more complicated than any lie. Sometimes the story you think you're writing turns out to be completely different when you actually pay attention. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling me, have you ever had to choose between what's easy and what's right? I read every single one. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's struggling with their own truth right now, share it with them. Remember, we're all more than our worst mistakes, and sometimes the best stories are the ones where nobody's perfect, but everybody's trying, where love shows up in the middle of lies and finds a way to make something real. I'll see you in the next one. Stay true.